Welcome, friends, to the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. I am your host, Antea Evelina, and I am excited about today's journey. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. I think a lot has changed in the world since our last Wednesday episode. In our last Wednesday episode, we talked about atmosphere. We talked about the things that we allow into our personal space, the things that we see and the things that we hear and things of that sort. Well, since then, the doors of the country have opened back up. They have slightly lifted quarantine in a lot of the states, and we're free to roam about. And what I've noticed about myself since I've been inside for 3 months is that I am hypersensitive to the condition of the world. I'm hypersensitive when it comes to interactions with other people. How about you? I think the most fitting title for this particular episode is Thermostat or Thermometer. Have you ever heard about that? Have you ever heard someone say, are you a thermostat or a thermometer? Just because I believe as humans, we can react, we can react to something that we feel like is being projected on us. And I'm telling you, on my journey of quarantine-free life, I have been encountering the most ratchet customer service and the most horrible customer experiences. And I feel like I'm so sensitive to it. And I just feel like in quarantine, the quarantine mentality that a lot of businesses I experienced had was, I'm here, but I don't want to be here. And so they made you feel like, well, I'm forced to be here and you need me, so I'm going to treat you any kind of way. I mean, I'm telling you, from the dentist to the grocery store to the cable company. I mean, you name it. The experiences have been poor. And I feel like me as a person, I'm so much more sensitive to it. And I'm finding myself being a thermometer, not a thermostat. A thermostat controls the temperature. A thermometer responds to the heat, or it responds to that temperature. And so I find that I'm just I'm just popping off. But even in what you say or what you do, even in your mental health, so I may not necessarily pop off verbally, but I'm having conversations in my head and my body language is saying a whole lot. So what do? I feel like these experiences make you feel like a victim. They make you feel taken advantage of. They make you feel hurt and offended. I mean, there's so many different emotions that you feel as a result of it. And I can remember saying, when I see people just acting a fool out in public, they just going off. Now I can understand what the people felt. But also, you never know what that person's gone through. You never know what they just left behind, and they're encountering this obstacle that they just don't have the emotional strength or the mental strength to be able to deal with. And so sometimes we can't be reactional. We can't just hurry up and react. We have to stop and think, and we have to consider other people's lives and what they have endured. And we're not privy to the details, but just know that even in our own experiences, we could have dealt with some very terrible times, and then you go out into public and then somebody does something and it triggers you. And so in life, of course, we can't be thermometers. We have to be thermostats, but it's easier said than done. I just want to encourage you guys today. I was just thinking, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about on the Hypocrites and Hypochondriac podcast Wednesday edition? What am I going to say to the people? Well, I know that we are all getting back out into the world and we're having different experiences. And, life is different. Some people have recovered from COVID. Some people have had relatives who have passed away due to COVID. There's people who've dealt with the tornado and lost their home. There's people who are working on rebuilding their home. Like, there's just so many different circumstances and situations that locally, my people here in my community have dealt with. And I only can imagine what people are dealing with in the United States and globally. And so what we have to do and practice in this season in all of our lives is we have to practice sensitivity. We have to have empathy and compassion for others, and don't be so reactive. we have to practice controlling the environment that we're in. You put things into the environment based off of how you act and based off of what you say. And so when we come into an environment, a lot of times we have the sensitivity enough to know this environment isn't right. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't take much for you to be able to go into an environment where something violent or negative has happened and you can sense it. But let me tell you, each and every one of us has the ability to change atmospheres. And so, what we're going to practice is we're going to practice going out and being thermostats. When we walk into a room, when we walk into an atmosphere in an environment and something does not feel right, we are going to speak positivity, because I'm going to tell you, the only way that you can combat a negative thought is by replacing it with a positive one. And if anybody knows anything about Carolyn Leaf, she speaks on this. And she talks about how negative thoughts show up in our brain almost kind of like a burnt forest. She has scientific facts that show that when you begin to speak positive things, that helps your brain to heal from those negative thoughts, because negative thoughts stay with us. And how many know the impact of negativity stays with us? So, what we can do is say, you know what, it's a beautiful day. I'm happy to be alive. I'm glad that I have my health. I'm glad that I can see. I'm glad that I can hear. I'm glad that I can walk on my own. I'm thankful for my family members. I'm thankful for my neighbors. And just put it out in the atmosphere. And what we do know is that gratitude is a superpower. If you listen to any of our previous episodes, if you listen to that Mellow Monday that talks about gratitude matters, and gratitude will change the way that you feel and the way that you think. And so if we can just practice gratitude, we've come out on the other side of this thing. We are survivors. We are winners. We are victorious, because you know what? It didn't take us out. Some of us have experienced loss. We have, but we can find something to be thankful about and put it into the atmosphere. Well, fruit bearers, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Hypocrites and Hypochondriacs podcast. Please make sure that you go on to iTunes or Spotify or any major podcast listening platform and subscribe so that you can be the first to hear these episodes. Now, until next week, be blessed.